Angela asked for that message translation of the Beatitudes to take with her into Sunday school. That's good. Our children are important to us. And one of the things I think that we always need to remember is that I know as a parent, I was always grateful for the reinforcement that church gives to the things that you try to do at home. If you're a parent, you will know that sometimes what you say, they will obey you and they will respect you. But it's awfully nice to have the things that you believe in reinforced both in school and in church. At the church that my husband serves, Salem, there are a lot of adults who join that church who are previously unchurched. And they didn't grow up in church. They didn't grow up going to Sunday school. And some of the simplest stories and narratives I would find in the new members classes that I taught, which lasted anywhere from 20 to 27 weeks. Can you imagine being in a new members class 27 weeks? They didn't know these stories. One year, the first year that the church was in their new building, we did this huge skit, waving palms. It was Palm Sunday, a little donkey, Jesus on the donkey. And the next Tuesday in the members class, people were saying, what was the deal with the palms and the donkey? They simply didn't know the stories. And so I think we do ourselves a great disservice when we're always trying to do new, innovative things. But there are certain narratives, certain stories that Christians need to know and understand. And our children need to know these stories. So hopefully, in the coming years, as I talk to them about the sermon that Jesus taught, maybe something will stick with them, even if they only remember, oh yeah, at one point in time, Jesus sat on the mountain and said some things to his disciples. But these blessings and other stories, I think, are important. And in our Christian education team, so grateful for Beth Smith and Gail Reese and Karen John and Simone Cook and Angela and Tammy Reese, who work with our children every week. It is not an easy task. Children are all different, and trying to make sense out of some of this stuff is a hard thing. So praise God for that. You may be an adult. You're all adults in this room. I bet you're not even sure what the Beatitudes actually say. In the Bond Chapel at the Divinity School, if you walk in, there are a brass border all around the chapel, and the Beatitudes are carved into that beautiful brass border. These are things that we hold to be dear, and we always say, blessed are this, blessed is that. The Sermon on the Mount happens when Jesus is actually trying to get away from a large crowd. If you look through the Bible, whenever Jesus notices that there are crowds, he never goes towards them. He's always going away from them. Even Jesus grew weary and was drained by so many people wanting to interact with him. So in this case, he sees the crowd. He just goes a little further up the mountain. When I visited the Holy Land in 1998, we were taken to a place by these tourism people, and it's on the Mount of Olives. And they say, tradition has it that this is where the Sermon on the Mount was held. The natural acoustics in a place like that make it understandable why Jesus could be in a place like that and speak and actually be heard. In fact, the minister that was with us on the trip, actually we held a worship service. He didn't have a microphone. We could hear him just fine. There were natural acoustics in that place. But I want to get inside these, as I did with the children, and help us perhaps to focus on them and give ourselves something to work for, something to aspire to, something to remind us who God wants us to be. And the reason that he sent Jesus was to give us this example of who God can enable us to be. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. In Luke, when we have the Sermon on the Mount, it says, blessed are the poor. But Matthew says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Jesus is not ennobling poverty here. What he is saying is, blessed are those who don't put all of their eggs in the materialist basket. In other words, we don't want to be poor, but to know that what our material possessions represent to us is not what's important. We will inherit the kingdom of heaven. For the kingdom of heaven is not about status, it's not about possessions, it's not about wealth. But it's about understanding that those things are not what shapes us, those things are not what matter. So to be poor in spirit is simply to align oneself with the poor in a sense that not that we want to be poor, but in the sense that we understand that while we want human needs to be met, our position in the kingdom, our position in society is not going to be based on how much we have. So, when we're able to focus on what really matters, that's when the kingdom of heaven can be ours. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are all of us when difficult things happen because we serve and worship a God of all comfort. I'm always talking about spiritual resources, and I don't know how people get through life without having some kind of spiritual strength, something to fall back on when our humanity is weak, when something brings a tear to our eye, when we just want to walk away from circumstances. God says, blessed are those who mourn, for you will be comforted. There is comfort in the grace of God. And blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. There's an old saying that says, don't confuse my meekness with weakness. Jesus was meek. He wasn't weak. Who are the meek? Are these sheep who are guided and crawled about, or who crawl about just trying to stay out of trouble? No. The meekness that the scripture refers to here are people who get things done without creating a fuss. People who can, as Dr. King would have said, as John Lewis often says, create good trouble. If you've been listening to the news, John Lewis says this all the time. He tweets it out all the time. Hashtag good trouble. John Lewis, in his wonderful autobiography, talks about figuring out how to dramatize an injustice, how to make it stand out, and how to get in the way when unjust things are happening, when negative things are happening. Meek people figure out how to get in the way and cause good trouble without dishonoring anyone. There are people at airports all over the country now who are hopefully being meek. We don't intend to hurt other people as we're protesting. That's not being meek. But when you put yourself in the path of disrupting injustice, that's good trouble, John Lewis would say. Nonviolent protest simply dramatizes the unjust action. And the people that can help us move to a better place without creating violence will help us to inherit a different kind of earth, a new earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Blessed are you if you have a thirst and hunger for God. You will be filled in a way that makes sense for you. I hate lima beans. I will not eat them in a box. I will not eat them with a box. I will not eat them here or there. I will not eat them everywhere. My mom used to make succotash with corn and lima beans. We had a clean plate rule in our house. Clean plate or no dessert. I swallowed the lima beans whole because I hated the taste of them. Hunger and thirsting after righteousness, for they will be filled. We don't all like every spiritual practice. Not all of us are going to be on our knees for an hour every day. Not all of us are even going to read the Bible every day. I'd say try 5 minutes a day. Try doing something that is devotional. You can buy your own devotional, just read something out of it every day. You can say the Lord's Prayer. You can recite Psalm 23. Whatever you do, be sure that there's something in you that desires to be closer to the things of God. Scripture and prayer are like diet and exercise. There is simply no way to know the things of God as a Christian without knowing some Scripture and about engaging in some kind of devotional practice. If this is all the devotion you get sitting here today, then I would say you're starving yourself spiritually. There's no way you can get stronger. Just like if this is the only exercise I get, I'm probably not going to lose any weight. The sad thing is, I don't get as much exercise as I should, and so I'm not losing weight. But boy, oh boy, I think my spirit's in pretty good shape. I'm a professional minister, yes, but I hope to arouse in you some sense that there needs to be not just an interest in, but a hunger for things of God. For Jesus tells us that when we have that hunger, we're going to be filled. He's going to find a way to give us those things that we need to be spiritually healthy. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. What goes around kind of comes around. Mercy is something that's often hard to give. Mercy is given not because people deserve it, but because God demands it. And when we are able to show mercy, the universe ensures that mercy comes back to us. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Don't you like people who are just what you know that when they say something, their word is good. You know that these people are not trying to create any kind of friction. There are people who scheme and slander other people. There are people who deliberately lie. I was in a meeting this week when I heard someone say something that I knew was not true. He knew it was not true. He knew that I knew it was not true. And I had to interrupt the conversation and say, I'm sorry, you must be confused with a different meeting because that's not what happened. There are people who don't live truthful lives. And so if we're pure in heart, we're not perfect. But our desire is always to do those things that are like God, those things that will honor God. And so when we're pure in heart, when we really try to be faithful and honest, that's when we see the best in ourselves, and that's when we really can see God, and that's when other people see God in you. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. It's hard sometimes to speak up and be the one to bring people together. It's hard sometimes to be in the midst of discord, in the midst of difference, and be the one who can chart the path through. But this is what we are called to be as children of God, as the followers of Jesus Christ. And sometimes when we stand up and try to create peace, we'll be persecuted. In Jesus' day, he was foreshadowing a time when they would be killed and jailed and even crucified. The idea is not that we go off seeking this kind of suffering, but knowing that when we do stand up for what is right, we may be talked about, we may be slandered, we may be jailed. People may not like us. Certain news media outlets may speak against the group that we stand with. But when we are persecuted for righteousness' sake, again, the kingdom of heaven is ours. Notice the people who are given the gift of the kingdom of heaven are those who stand up despite persecution, and those who understand that the kingdom is not in their riches, but in their spirit. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven, for so they persecuted the prophets that were before you. I really don't mind being reviled and even persecuted when I stand for the right things, when I stand for the things of God. I believe it's my calling as a minister, and long before I was a minister, I was raised in a household where we were taught that you're not the only person in this family, you're not the only person on this street, in this block, in our church, in your neighborhood. There are more people in the world than you. And their destiny is your destiny. Jesus calls his people to receive these blessings. And these blessings are not holy water being thrown upon us. These blessings don't come because we're obedient no matter what to things that we don't believe in. These blessings come when we are true to the call of Jesus Christ, which is really a revolutionary call against power, against riches, against persecution, against poverty, against injustice, against the absence of mercy, against war, against disrespect, but for love, for mercy, for peace, for justice, for truth. That's when we receive the blessings of God. I pray that in every action you take, every step you make, you will always remember that you are blessed when you follow in the steps of Jesus, who knew no distinction, who always showed mercy, whose heart was pure because he followed the heart of God, who didn't care what people thought about him because he stood for truth. You are blessed when you can follow in the steps of Jesus Christ. And no matter where you are, no matter who you are, these blessings are available to you. May the Lord of all peace grant you these blessings as we seek to walk in his way and stand for his truth. Amen.